Hey there, everybody, and welcome to In the Seaweeds. We are here with Joe Roberts today from Home Disaster Medics, and I cannot wait for you to hear their story. They are doing incredible work here in the community and giving back as well. So, therefore, we wanted you to know all about them. So, Joe, welcome. Thank you so much for coming
Thanks.
on. I
Thanks for
love
having me,
having you
Kelly.
here. Yes, it's wonderful. Your business is Home Disaster Medics, and you are a major important piece of our community, especially here on the coast as hurricane season comes up and through the humidity and different things that we all deal with here. So I'm excited for you to tell your story to our listeners today and just kind of let them understand how you're helping, what you do to give back to the community. I have to say, too, before we start anything else, to look at the reviews on this company. 5-star across the board. So please take a look at the reviews. It's
Thanks.
incredible what they've done. So, Joe, I'm going to let you take it from here. Let's hear all about Home
Sure.
Disaster Medics.
Well, it starts with I was in the Marine Corps active duty. My wife and I moved here in 2015. And so we've been here ever since. But in 2018, I deployed to Afghanistan, and my wife was left here we had at the time 3 kids, ages 4 and under. So she had a lot going on. And it was a
Oh,
10-month deployment for me. And of course, anybody that was here in 2018 knows what rolled through the area that fall. We had Hurricane Florence, which dumped record levels of rain and really did a number on eastern North Carolina of the damage it caused. So our house did sustain some damage, not nearly to the extent that a lot of people did. But I mean, this community was still recovering from Florence years later. But that all occurred while I was in Afghanistan. And my wife having to deal with insurance agents and adjusters and trying to find a contractor to fix the damage on her home. And I really couldn't be of much assistance. I had very limited internet access, and I was on a not on a base where I could really handle it. It's very eye-opening for us. We'd never filed an insurance claim before. We'd been homeowners in various states, but we'd been homeowners since 2013 at that point, and never filed a claim, didn't know the process, didn't know really how to go about finding a contractor or anything like that. Anybody that's been through a major storm knows that you've got your local companies, of course, but then when a big storm comes through, you have what's called storm chasers. So you get all these companies and flowing in from other states. I mean, literally halfway across the country, they'll come, looking for work, and they'll essentially camp out for a couple few months and grab up as much work as they can, which is great. The community needs it. Obviously, the capacity for local companies to kind of handle that much work with a major storm like that is limited. But the problem is there's varying levels of quality and ultimately like the integrity of the companies that are coming in, right? So they don't have a stake in the local community. They don't really have a reputation to protect. So, unfortunately, many of them do not operate in a way that looks out for the homeowner. It's just kind of a quick money grab. And we had to deal with that. You get substandard work, you get paid for work that doesn't occur correctly. So, that kind of occurred. And that was just very eye opening for us. It's like, first of all, it's not very intuitive dealing with an insurance company. It's not very you don't really know. You think at first you think like, oh yeah, the insurance company, I've been paying them all this money all these years. Of course they're going to be on my side. And then
yeah.
you start to realize like, no, they're pretty much on the side of their shareholders, which means that every dollar they don't pay you is a dollar that is a dollar of profit for the company, right? And so ultimately you start to realize like goals are not really aligned here. My goal is to get my house back to as good of a condition as it was prior to this occurring. Their goal is to save their company as much money as possible and pay you as little as possible. And so goals are not aligned. Homeowners are oftentimes going through this for the first time because, I think the numbers, they vary, but it's about 1.4 major claims that a homeowner will file in their life, which means that, a substantial number of people, it's going to be the only claim they ever file, and they haven't gone through it before. So I'm still active duty. Fast forward quite a few years. I finally get out of the Marine Corps in 2023. I had a small real estate investing business, which I still have, that kind of allowed us to transition out. But we knew after we did some traveling around, and we just felt like this was home. So we came back here. We bought our dream property in Holly Ridge. And although my real estate investing was going well, I really wanted a local service-based business. I wanted something that would be recession resistant, that would provide a service to the community that people need all the time. It would be something where I could work with crews and employees face to face on a daily business. I really missed that about from the Marine Corps of working with the guys and gals. And at the same time, I was talking to my cousin who owned a successful irrigation business in Colorado, and he had a lot of experience in construction, not specifically restoration, but in the trades. And he wanted to move out here and move his family out here from Colorado. And so we just got to talking and kind of looked at the area. We're like, what's needed here? And I started to just recall my experience with Florence. And I was like, you know what? I was looking around at the companies, and there are some good companies here. There's major national brands. And so it can really vary the quality you're getting from crew to crew. I was like, I think there's an opportunity here for a local business to do that type of restoration work for companies and bring very high quality service to people where we're vested here. People know us. We go to church here. We shop at the Publix. We shop at the Food Lion. We're down at the beach. Like we're here for the long haul. We're building our forever home here. So it really, I think there's a place for a company like that. And he agreed after we did some market analysis. So he sold his company in Colorado, came out here, and Andrew and I started Home Disaster Medics beginning of 2024. So that's kind of the genesis behind our company.
I love it so much. And first of all, thank you for your service. I know that was a heck of a deployment for you probably at the time, especially as you had so many things going on here, but really appreciate you taking care of our country and making sure we're all safe. So really important to state that, especially here in this local area, the veteran supported businesses and community here, that how important it is for us to support them as well, because they're coming off of making sure we're all protected. And then they come out and start these amazing businesses that also protect us. So kudos. We love you for that. Thank you. You've really set yourself up as like the company we all are going to need at some point, most likely, especially here on the coast. And something interesting, you're kind of coming into this podcast at such an interesting time because the hurricane season's already started. It seems like it's already picking up. And this could be one of those years where I'm not sure. I don't want to put it out there, doomsday, but the ocean is hot right now and things are happening and these are starting to stir up. And it's important that everybody's educated on what could happen, because I think we get complacent sometimes when we don't have a hurricane or a wind event for a long time. And then all of a sudden one happens and it's just chaos, right? And you're doing a lot to educate and prepare our community for that. So I'd love to hear more about how you're doing that and how people can find you if they need this resource too.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, that's our kind of our hurricane preparedness initiatives was really born out of some personal experiences, largely just the fact that I'm from Colorado. I moved here and never dealt with a hurricane before, never dealt with, we never really had to prepare for such a major event like that, like growing up in Colorado. And I know there's a lot of transplants, whether it be from the Marine Corps or people just love the area and they're moving from other states, but they've also never dealt with that. And so, multi-generational locals, they typically have it down. They know how to deal with it, what they should have on hand. But there was people after Florence that were without power for very extended periods of time. And there's just studies that come out that show the average American home is not is really not prepared for more than like 24 to 48 hours of not having utilities, right? And that could be they don't have enough fresh water, they don't have enough food on hand, they don't have enough dry goods because the fridge goes out, you don't have a generator, right?
Yeah.
And so I just realized, like, oftentimes people that are prepared, they're going to obviously, so there's families being prepared and then there's homes being prepared. And if homes are prepared, they're less likely to ultimately need our services. And although I'm a small business owner and I want to be there when people do need us, like, I also don't want my community devastated because people's homes were damaged and there was something that could have been done to avoid it, whether it be trimming trees back or proper drainage systems or storm shutters, right? So last summer, which was our first kind of lead into hurricane season, we did an initiative where we put together 1,000 hurricane preparedness packages. Not much, some little bit of water purification in there, some lighters, some candles. But we built like an 8-page guide that had just kind of A to Z of both preparation, what to do when the storm hits, and then how to deal, like what to do immediately following to set yourself up for that insurance claim and getting back on your feet and everything. And just all put it together in a packet, like a nice zip canvas bag. And we just gave them out to the community. We dropped them off at homes and partnered with some churches and handed them out. And so, yeah, for Sneads Ferry to Hampstead and the island, we passed those out last year. And we had some other local businesses that sponsored it as well. So, it was a great success. I think, we heard a lot of feedback, even though we didn't get the big storm last year. A lot of people were thankful and, learned a lot from that guide that they wouldn't have otherwise known. And so, we just decided like, that's a great way to give, like, we are the resident experts on this type of stuff. It's a great way to give back to the community. And so we decided we're just going to make it an annual thing. It might have a different flavor every year. But for instance, this summer, what we're doing is we're doing hurricane preparedness inspections. So basically we're for free going to people's homes, spending 2 minutes walking around the outside of their home, evaluating their drainage systems. Like I said, my cousin had an irrigation company, so he's an expert in all things drainage. We're looking at what kind of external hazards, whether it be from their own property or neighborhood properties, they should be aware of, and then evaluating their family preparedness. Like, what do you have on hand? Do you have a generator? This is where you would set it up. This is how much wattage you're going to need for your home, those sorts of things. And then we still have those packets as well that we're handing out when we do those inspections. It's not a ton. There's probably 40,000 people between Sneads Ferry and Hampstead. Obviously, we're not going to reach everybody, but if we can give back a little bit and make storm season, give a bit of peace of mind to storm season to some people in our community, then we'd like to do that.
That's awesome. That's so awesome, because I don't think anybody is really ever prepared, or there'll be those few homes that you taught, right? And things like that. Like, certain people really have an understanding of what comes after those types of events. But you're right, getting past the 48-hour mark is really something else. And knowing how to potentially alleviate some of those things that could happen before it happens is really imperative around here. And we've been lucky lately. I would say it's been mild, but I feel like after seeing all these hurricanes starting to kick up and tropical storms and things going on, I was like, I don't know, this might be the year we have to focus a little more. So, I think it's...
Yeah, historically, so this part of East North Carolina, if you go from Wilmington up to like Carteret County, actually has the highest concentration of direct hurricane hits of any other place in the country going back 165 years, going back to the 1850s. And so it is something that anybody living on the coast here has to be aware about. And historically, we get hit with a direct storm every 3 to 4 years and a major direct storm every 10 to 15 years. So we're definitely due for at least a category 1 or 2 hurricane. And then we're approaching the time where we're going to start being due for another major hurricanes, like a Florence or a Matthew or something like that. So it's definitely, we've had a few good years, thankfully, but it's something that people should not get complacent about the impacts. People tend to forget. New people move to the area and people forget how bad it was after Florence. I mean, I had Marines that were like still unable to live in their homes 9 months after we got back from Afghanistan after Florence had hit. Just because of how widespread that damage was, if you remember.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's painful. I was actually talking to my son the other day, but I was explaining that a property might be a certain price, but there's like that extra cost that involved in living here, right? That you have to be prepared for, and just kind of between the insurances and cleanup and things like that. And it's difficult to look at that and think, this could actually happen to me someday. It's never going to happen. I think naturally humans just go, it's never going to happen to me. It happens to everybody else, but it does happen here, and it is a huge cost. So learning from you and making sure that people understand how to maybe get ahead of it, but then also the right people to call, like your company. Like, don't get into this national storm chaser situation. Know who to call, who's going to take care of you, who's got your back is so important. So I'm really glad we're putting this out there today, because I think, I sit in our house all the time and go, what are we going to do if we just get if it just comes? I mean, we're 1 mile from the water, right? But people aren't thinking about that on the daily. They're thinking about their day, right? So these types of educational moments are really important for our community, and I'm so glad you're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, we tried it, all year round, because it's obviously storm season's a big time of year. If we get hit with a storm, That's
Yeah.
going to be our
Crazy.
sole focus for however long it takes to get people back on their feet. But we haven't had a major storm in a while. So, but our services are still very needed around here. So people's pipes break, their toilets overflow, their air conditioners leak. And obviously in eastern North Carolina, if that's not properly remediated, you get mold, which is another
Yep.
huge part of our business is mold testing, inspections, and proper remediation. And so, that obviously keeps us busy when there's not storms to fix up after, because mold is kind of a constant if you're not careful with your upkeep. Or a lot of
Yes.
people, they just don't understand. They might have moved from a place out west where water leaks, but it's it's dry the next day, and like no harm no foul, whatever,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. Here, if your AC leaks into your ceiling, it's not enough to just like buy a floor fan from Lowe's and point it up at the ceiling. Like, you're going to have mold, and that mold's going to spread, and
Yeah.
it's going to start colonizing. And then you start to talk about health effects. You start to talk about just the damage it does to your home and its potential value of, once it's being resold and everything. So, we try to educate people on all that year round. Our Facebook page, we're constantly putting out educational material. We have a blog on our website around those types of topics: how to best manage humidity in your home, what to do with mold, what you can DIY, what you should bring somebody in for. And that guide I mentioned as well, that's also on our website. So I'd say if people visit our website or like and follow our Facebook page, then they'll see, we try to put out educational content basically weekly. We're talking about something new just for people to be aware of.
That's excellent. I did see that. I think that's incredible. We'll put your website up at the end of this here too and make sure everybody can see it, because you do have just constant resources flowing in there. And I think it's incredible. I can't thank you enough for that added education, because it's one thing to be a company in the local area, but to actually say, like, these are the ways you can avoid it. These are the ways you have to go about it if it happens. I think that's so important. And, especially, it's true. There's beyond hurricane season, just knowing you're there is a resource for some of those things that people aren't thinking about, especially mold. Mold is something we're dealing with all the time, on the coast. It's just
Yep.
normal part of life here. But knowing how to find it and remediate it properly is really important, so people aren't getting sick. So that healthy home idea, you're keeping up with that too, which I love. Healthy home, it comes
Absolutely.
from so many different variables, but those are some big ones that people need to know about: the irrigation, the water leakage, things like that, just things that can happen that people aren't thinking about. So yeah, your
Yeah,
website is a great
indoor
resource.
air quality is a huge health issue all over the U.S., whether it's in major cities from pollution and whatnot, but even just out here, you'd think we've got the sea breeze and coast everything, but modern homes are built to such tighter tolerances that they
Yeah.
just they don't breathe well. So once indoor air quality starts to take a dive, you're just kind of left with that. That's what you're breathing in and out on a daily basis. So there's lots of things you can do to prevent that and then properly remediate it once it occurs. But it's something
Mhm.
most people don't think about it until, we get calls from clients all the time. It's like, I just got back from the doctor. He says, I've got lung fibrosis because of whatever's going on in my air. And that's when we get
Mm.
the call, unfortunately, right? Is after some sort of medical thing has occurred. So it's definitely something to preemptively take care of. AC is amazing. We wouldn't all live here if we didn't have AC, but all these
Mhm.
central forced air systems, those ducts collect a lot of crap in there. And
Yep.
so duct cleaning is something else that we do. We used to sub it out, and then we couldn't find any reliable duct cleaning companies that were doing it to our standards and maintaining that sterile environment while they were doing it. So we decided to add it to our services. So we just include that because we have to do it so often when we're doing mold remediation anyway. So
Yeah. Wow. How often do you recommend that people do duct cleaning?
yeah, a lot of it depends on like that indoor air quality you're maintaining on the daily in your
Mhm.
home. How often are you changing your air filters? You should have at least a MERV 11 or 13, and you should be changing those at least quarterly, but ideally monthly. And so if you're doing a good job of keeping your indoor air quality, you're addressing things as they come up, you're changing your filters frequently, you could go many years without needing a duct clean.
Oh, wow. Okay.
5, 6 years. It doesn't need to be an annual thing. Most people don't do that, or they move into a house and the previous owner didn't do it and they're inheriting a problem. So if you're not very good about it, it's probably every couple years that you're going to need it, a thorough cleaning to get rid of the buildup. And once you start to have if you do have a mold event or a water damage event in your house and it's not properly remediated, those spores are going to get sucked into your HVAC system, and then they'll start colonizing.
That's so scary. All right, everybody, I hope you heard that. Pay attention to your filters. Oh my gosh. Is there anything right now that you feel like we should tell everybody?
Yeah, let's chat about insurance really quick. So
Okay.
there's a lot of misconceptions about insurance. So first of all, a lot of people don't even, their realtor, their closing attorney said, use this insurance agent. They got some insurance when they closed, and they've never looked at their policy. They don't actually know what's covered. Most people have no idea what their deductible is, what's, what they can make, even how to make a claim, right? So first of all, there's some quick tips. One, just take a look at your policy, understand what's covered, what isn't. If you want it plain language, then send it to your agent and say, hey, break this down plain language for me. What am I covered for in terms of events that happen around my house? And what are some common things that this policy does not cover me for? And if your agent's not willing to do that for you, find a new insurance agent and call us, and I can make some good recommendations, because that's literally their job. They're supposed to go find you the best policy, and they should be able to break that all down into layman's terms for you. So first, do that. Understand your policy. Second, understand what's the process of filing a claim. Write it down on a piece of paper. If you have one of our hurricane packets, we encourage people just put it in there, put that somewhere. So as soon as something happens, you're pulling that out and you're starting the process. A lot of people waste days trying to figure out the convoluted process their insurance company has for filing claims. And all the time, that's, time's adding up between when they discovered an issue and when they get the claim in. On that note, when something happens, don't wait to start remediating. There is a 10-day clock that starts once you discover the damage to your home. And if you go past that 10-day clock, the vast majority, I've not yet seen an insurance policy that doesn't, are going to not approve that claim. So it's unfortunately something that we see fairly frequently, is where people they don't really know the process. Maybe they're confused, or maybe they just start to procrastinate. Anyway, they get past that 10-day clock. The insurance company says, no more, you can't file a claim. It's all going to be out of pocket. So you have a duty as a homeowner in every single insurance policy to mitigate damage when it occurs and to keep further damage from occurring. And so that means you need to get somebody like us on scene as quickly as possible to at least stabilize the environment and show the company, okay, I took action. This is what I took, and then I filed the claim. So that's a really important aspect that people don't realize, and then in some cases get themselves into a lot of trouble by waiting on.
Wow.
And then the last thing I would say is just insurance in general. I kind of mentioned it earlier. I don't have a problem saying this because we're an independent company. So that was a big thing. When we looked to start this, we actually looked at some potential franchise options. But one of the things that just really was a real put off to me right off the bat was all the big franchise nationwide brands. We've got them around here. I won't say their names because I don't want anybody to take legal action, but you probably know who they are. They all have these relationships with the insurance companies. Yeah. And to me, it's a little shady, because what happens is they essentially agree on preset prices with the insurance companies to do work, and that allows them to be like a preferred contractor. The problem is that if your contractor is in bed with your insurance company, who also, by the way, the adjuster, the independent person who's supposed to be making sure that you get what your policy says you get, is also paid, their salary is literally paid by the insurance company. Now everybody is working for the multi-billion-dollar corporation. So who's working for the homeowner? Nobody, right? And that was a big reason why we decided to be an independent company. It's we want to be a company that we get hired by the homeowner. We sign a contract with them, and we're on their team. We're doing the work to the best of our ability. We're doing quality work. We're not going to cut any corners. We're not going to take any advice from the insurance company on how to properly remediate, because it's a cheaper or less efficient way to go. And that independence really allows us to maintain our integrity and our reputation when it comes to the people we serve here. And so the adjuster is not your friend. The insurance company is not your friend. Just remember that, right? document everything and remember that you probably are going to have to fight. You're probably going to have to send some strongly worded emails. I would say about
So sad.
7 times out of 10, your insurance company is not going to do the right thing right off the bat. And the thing is that for them, it's a numbers game. If they lowball homeowners every time, and only 3 of those 10 homeowners push back and fight for what's rightfully owed to them, well, then they made a bunch of money on the 7 homeowners who just accepted, oh, well, it's the insurance company. That's what they said they'd pay. And I guess they know. So it's unfortunate. That's, I think, what happens when companies get too large and too disconnected from the communities they serve. But that's
Yes.
kind of the reality of it. And people definitely need to know that going into a claim. They got to be ready to stand up for their rights.
Good for you. That is so true. Gosh, I came from a healthcare background, and that was exactly what I lived in every day. We were all protecting the insurers, not the patients, and it made me really want to get out. I'm like, if I'm not protecting patients at the end of the day, this is not feeling good anymore. So that was kind of a bad vibe, but it happens across the service industries too, especially this one, right? And there's a vulnerability for these folks that when something terrible happens to their home or themselves, like you're vulnerable and you just are looking for help, and sometimes you just cave, right? You just, okay, fine, I'll do whatever, just take care of it. This education is so important for our community, and I'm going to share this far and wide because, yeah, stick up for yourselves, stand up for yourselves, write the strongly worded email. Yes, call Joe, because there's a reason you're here and you're protecting the community. And just what you said, I can relate to that so much from the healthcare side, but how scary, to have your house imploding and, you just are getting kind of used and abused by insurance companies and so on.
I really don't blame people. I mean, it's easy to say, oh, like, well, why'd you just accept that? But I really don't blame people when they've got massive corporations, and if they happen to hire, franchise companies, like they've also got them telling them, everybody's parroting the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And so, and again, it's their first time going through it. More than likely, the numbers say this is their one time going through it. So how are they supposed to know the difference, right? So the system really is set up not to benefit the homeowner. And so that's why we're never going to be a huge company, but small independent companies that value their reputation, we work very hard to make sure all of our clients are satisfied whenever we leave a job. And so that's the reason for it.
Oh my gosh. Yay. Bravo. I'm so proud of that. And thank you. You're giving good education and making sure we all know who you are and where you are and how to do this in a way that benefits us as homeowners and local community folks here, because it is true, regardless of what the situation is, those national corporations and the big franchises eventually, because of the way they're structured, just have to start focusing on dollar bills instead of people. And it's just an unfortunate way that things go. So knowing that Home Disaster Medics is there for us and, ready to not just swoop in and clean it up, but also teach is really, really a big deal. So
absolutely.
Wow. Proud of you guys. I love it.
Thank you.
It's such a cool thing. I don't know if you all have seen the Home Disaster Medics ambulance running around, but I pass it every day and I smile and think, okay, they're right down the road. They're here to help. And it's just like, you never know. And it might not be because of a hurricane. It might be because of a leaky pipe. It could be any number of things, but you're there to help us and make sure we get back on track the right way and protect our dollar bills we all are working so hard for right now. So that means the world to us. Oh, it's amazing.
But I think the key is, if you're educated, you're empowered. And so just start to read, start to research. Doesn't take too much to just kind of at least get an idea in your head of like, okay, this is what the process would look like. And hey, if you want to give us a call, we'll talk to you. We'll let you know. Even if you got nothing going on, just you have some questions about what an insurance policy looks like, whatnot. Definitely. The thing is, like, there's a lot of really good local companies in adjacent industries to us that we've now been able to establish good, quality looks for quality. So we look for quality folks in terms of whether it be tree removal, figuring out outdoor drainage systems, or you need an insurance agent that's actually going to find you the policy that's right for your home. We've got great connections within the community. So feel free to just give us a call and we can help point you in the right direction for any of that type of stuff you need.
Amazing. Joe, thank you. I know everybody's going to be grateful to hear about you and what you have going on. One, because you're giving back to the community, but two, because we're likely going to need you some more. It feels like it's like looming with this hurricane thing, but just knowing that you're local and caring about your community is huge to me personally, which is why we're having this conversation today. Anybody that's given back and really taking care of our people in this community is what matters the most. So I love to hear what you're working on. Excited. Well, I hope I never need you. I do know who I'm calling. Telling myself, go read that website, go read that website. Like, make sure I know everything. Like, how do I get ahead of all these things? Because it is, gosh, home ownership is so vast, right? There's so many things that happen in your time owning a home that, golly, it can get overwhelming. So
it really can. And I mean, absolutely. We hope people don't need us. We know that some people will. That's why we're here. Yep. Like, we're always going to be in business because people are always going to need that. So go read our website, look at our material, download our hurricane preparedness guide, call us and schedule one of those free inspections. They're limited in terms of availability just because we're still doing lots of things, but we are doing as many as we possibly can for people. So book an inspection and we'll chat through everything with you there. And then if nothing else, just remember our name. And then when something does happen, then we'll be there to tell you everything that you need to know anyway.
I love it. Thank you so much. I'm educated after today even more, and I know everybody else will be too. And I love this community and how you're giving back too. So thank you, Joe. I appreciate you so much.
Thanks for having me on, Kelly. It's great to meet you.
Absolutely.
And look forward to seeing you again.
Yes, definitely. I'm going to see you out there in that community.
Our office is right off Sound Road, where the Fusion Blue restaurant is, right near the Rich Police Station. So
that's awesome.
Come on by. If we're not out in the field, somebody's here. So if you just want to come by and say hi, feel free.
All right. We're gonna swing by, get some Fusion Bistro and see you guys for sure. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great summer.
Thanks, Kelly. Appreciate it.